webpage. In further accordance with the executive order, a transcript will be made at a later date. This meeting's agenda has been duly noticed on the town's webpage, which notice was accompanied by information as to how to access and view this meeting. So the first order of business is to review the prior meeting.
Just for anybody who's on the phone, do you want to just do a quick roll call, just to make sure you have a quorum?
Sure. Let's see. Well, I'm here. Dave?
I'm partially
Bias. Tim Econopoli?
Yes.
Tim Allenbrook?
Yep.
And Catherine Clark?
Yes.
Okay, I think we're all here. The first order of business is the approval of the meeting minutes for the last meeting, which was October 21st, 2020. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the meeting minutes?
Yep.
Okay, I know there were some edits. Thank you, Tim, as usual.
Very much.
Any comments, concerns, further corrections? Okay, hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented by the clerk for the meeting of October 21st, 2020. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, and I'll do a roll call, I guess. Kim, is that the most appropriate thing you think?
Yeah, yes, please, just for
Okay.
the record. Thank you.
A yes for me, Catherine,
Yes.
Tim E,
Yes.
David,
Aye.
Tim A.
Aye.
All right.
Yeah.
They are approved. All right, the next thing we have, and Chris, are you around?
She just stepped away 2
You
seconds
just
ago.
snuck off, okay. The next thing we have
Here she
is,
is.
here she is.
Sorry.
We have the 2021 ZBA meeting schedule.
Yes.
I did not have any quarrel with it. Does anybody have any?
Could I just ask a question, Chris?
Sure.
Yeah.
Are there any exceptions in there, or is it all carrying forward for the third Wednesday?
No, there is, with the exception of Monday and holidays, it's just for the agenda close dates. There's two that are adjusted, but
Okay,
not the meeting dates. The meeting
So-
dates are the same.
so I can just leave the automatic thing in my calendar,
You should be able to, yes.
right? All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody have any problem with the proposed meeting dates for 2021?
No.
All right. Motion required, Kim, to approve them?
Yeah, just a quick one.
Okay, I move that we approve the proposed meeting dates as set forth in the notice that we received for 2021. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay. Tim Econopoli,
Oh, yes.
Tim Allenbrook,
yes.
me, yes, Catherine Clark,
Yes. Yes.
and David Tobias.
I don't think you need my vote since I won't be there, but
But
yes,
But why not?
sure.
Maybe you'll reconsider.
There you go.
Hopefully you will. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Very nice of you.
I know. Well, you know, I like to give the accolades.
I'm the devil you know.
True. That is quite true. All right, enough silliness. Let's go to the public hearings. We have no new applications, correct?
None, no.
None. Okay. So the first public hearing is scheduled for 7:05, and we're there. And it's the Reichelt matter, and I know Ms. Reichelt is here. I can see her. If you could just do what you did the last time, and that was to present for the public what your application entails. And is there anyone here for that application? Doesn't look like it. But just in case, if somebody does want to ask some questions or the board members want to ask questions about the application, we'll do that. So if you just take it away and explain briefly what you want to do.
Okay, I want to put up a 34 by 36 foot barn with a 10-foot overhang and seeking the variance to locate it closer to the front of the property than the house is. So
Okay, and briefly, why does it have to be closer to the front lot line than the
because
principal?
there's wetlands directly behind the house.
Right.
So that's really the only place to put it.
Okay. I know I went out there with Catherine, I think it was, I want to say November 7th. I could have the date wrong. I think it was a Saturday, if I recall. Did any other board members go out?
It was
And take a
Veterans
look.
Day.
What's that?
It was Veterans Day.
Oh, it was Veterans Day. Okay, so it was the 11th.
Yes,
All
the
right.
11th.
All right, I'm gonna have to change my resolution then. Okay. Did anybody else get a chance to get out there? Anybody have any questions or concerns about this application?
Just for the record, is the overhang go beyond the footprint of 34 by 36, or is that included in the footprint of 34 by
No,
36?
it goes beyond the 34 by 36.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just didn't want anybody to be confused down the road.
Okay, it does not appear that there is anyone here from the public to give any comment. Again, this last call, anybody from the public or any board members want to talk to Ms. Reichelt about this application? Any questions, concerns? Okay, not hearing any, I'll make a motion that,
And
We
Scott,
clo-
actually, just for the record, the ZBA did receive a written comment from Jay Burgess, which is part of the record.
yep,
He had no comments on the visibility issue. He was just concerned if there was going to be any commercial activity planned, like any sort of renting out short-term rentals or long-term rentals for boarding horses or any ag farm stand.
and we also had a letter from Central Hudson Gas and Electric, whose property that runs along the side of Ms. Reichelt's property, and they had no problem with the barn going up. And then I believe, Ms. Reichelt, you sent to us an email saying that you had spoken to some neighbors of yours, the Antivilles, is that correct?
Yes, they sent me an email saying that they had no problem with it being where
Okay.
it is. So
All right, and
Should we get that email on the record?
yeah, if you could send us that email for our records, that would be,
I think I forwarded that to Chris today.
I
Okay,
did.
great.
You guys should have it.
oh, you do?
Yeah.
Did you send it on? I know I saw the one in part of the email chain was with Ms. Reichelt, but,
Yes.
okay,
I can resend it.
all right. Did we receive anything else, Chris?
No, those were the only ones.
Okay, okay, with that said, I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay. Tim, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
Okay, Tim Allenbrook,
yes,
Tim Econopoli,
Yes.
Catherine Clark,
Yes.
David Tobias,
indeed.
and I am in favor of that as well. I do have a resolution prepared. Kim, do you think we should probably just go on to the next public hearing and then I can read the resolution later?
Yeah, since we usually read the resolutions at night,
Yep.
you know, and the resolution was prepared so that the applicant can provide shelter for the animals before the winter time. So
Right.
it's unusual that it would be prepared the same day as the public hearing, but there was an exception provided. But I would prefer, I think, just to keep things moving, if we do it at the end, where all the other resolutions are read, I think that would be best.
I think that's appropriate, and I think that's what we've done on the just a handful of occasions we've done this. So Ms. Reichelt, if you just hang around for a little bit, we'll read the
Sure.
resolution.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And the next public hearing is scheduled for 7:10, and I think we've gotten there. And that is the Barrett application. And I see Hannah Barrett is here. Hello.
Hello.
It's the same thing. I don't know, is there anybody here from the public with regard to this application? It doesn't look like it. Okay, if you could just, we know what the application is about from the last time around, but if you could just refresh our memory about what you want to do and what the application is about.
Okay, we're seeking a 58-foot variance to construct a 21 by 24-foot storage shed on our property. That's it.
Okay. Okay, and as I recollect, it's a storage shed, but it's also going to be used because you're both artists and it may be used
Yeah.
for that purpose as well.
Yeah,
Okay. We did, just for the record, we did get a response back from the planning board as well as the CAB, and that's part of the record. I don't know that we got any other information from any of the neighbors or anything like that. Chris, do you know if we received anything?
Nothing new. Nothing. I don't think at all.
Yeah, I don't think we received anything at all. That was my recollection, so.
Yeah, I can double check, but I don't think so.
Catherine and I also went out and visited the property on Veterans Day. And so we took a look at the the property, the general layout and all that kind of stuff. And it was staked out. Thank you very much for having that staked out so we could see where it was going to go and all that.
you're welcome.
Does anybody, any board members, any questions, concerns, comments for Ms. Barrett?
None here.
No, nothing.
Okay.
Hannah, since you said 58 today, very specifically, I'm thinking that you did measure exactly from where the shed was going to be to the property line.
Yes, we did.
Thank you. 'Cause I think that might be slightly different than what we had before.
Yeah, now it's kind of coming back to me. Weren't quite sure. We wanted to make sure we had a precise variance. We wanted to make sure that you got it as much as you required, that didn't ask for too little.
Yeah,
Thank
And
you.
Hannah provided that information before the notice went out, so the public notice
Yep.
was up to date and accurate for what is
Yes.
being requested.
oh, good, good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and I don't recall, who has the application on this? Or the resolution?
I'm not sure that was the sign, Scott.
Okay,
Last
Yeah, I don't have
Like-
anything in my notes for it, so.
yeah, I'm looking at
It
the
was-
question mark. Resolution assigned and just says didn't catch.
Yeah, it wasn't signed last time.
Okay. Who would like to do the resolution?
Would you like me to take this as my grand finale?
As your swan song, yes, why don't you?
Okay.
Okay, it's assigned to Dave. Okay, any questions, concerns, last chance to ask any questions? Okay, not hearing any. I would make a motion that we close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay. Catherine Clark,
yes.
me, yes. Tim Econopoli,
Yes.
Tim Allenbrook,
Yes.
David Tobias,
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Barrett, we've closed the public hearing, which means we have 62 days in order to render a resolution, but we don't wait that long. So I am confident that David will have a resolution prepared for the next meeting, which I believe is December 16th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you can fire me.
Uh, Something I've wanted to do for the last 5 years since I nominated you. But no, David will definitely get it done. Unfortunately, it's his last meeting with us. His term is up. And he has some sense, so he's not re-upping. But it'll definitely be done. And you don't have to be here for the resolution, but if you like, you know, we're on Zoom, so you might as well, if you like, if you're available, come and watch. And we'll read the resolution at the next meeting.
Okay,
All right?
thank you very much.
Thank you very
for the
much.
site visit and all the work.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, good
All
night now.
right.
Good night.
And Scott, before we move on from Barrett, just want to let you know the planning board has reviewed this application at their level, and they have declared it to be a type 2 action. If you may recall, the simultaneous action, so we've
That's
asked
right.
the planning board to be lead agency. So that has been done.
Great. All right. So those are the public hearings that are done. All right, so that brings us to the old business, and under old business, well, let me ask you this, Kim, I'll get your opinion since we're into old business. Do you want me to do the Reichelt resolution first and read it? Or do you want to get into Mulligan?
Yeah,
Welker
why don't
and-
you can do Reichelt.
Yep.
That should be fine.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the resolution that was forwarded this afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to go through and read it. Thank you, Kim, for cleaning it up a little bit. And it goes as follows. Resolution of the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals in the matter of the area variance application of Gretchen Reichelt, ZBA case number 1005. Background, the applicant is Gretchen Reichelt, hereinafter known as the applicant. The applicant is seeking an area variance to locate an accessory structure, which is a 34 by 36 foot barn, closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling. The subject application and request for variance results from the determination letter from the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Enforcement Officer dated September 29th, 2020. The letter confirmed that the applicant required an area variance to locate the barn closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling. Paragraph 2, the property involved. The appeal involves property located at 57 Pilgrim's Progress Road, Rhinebeck, New York, which bears the tax parcel number, and it's a long number, but I'm sure it's accurate. The applicant's property is approximately 18.24 acres and is located in the RC5 zoning district. The applicant is representing herself. And again, the applicant seeks to erect a 34 foot by 36 foot barn. Number of area variances required by letter dated September 29th, 2020. The ZEO advised the applicant that the applicant required one area variance in order to locate the accessory structure closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling. The variance is from section 125-27-A, subsection 3 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. ZBA review. With regard to timeliness of the appeal. On September 29th, 2020, the ZEO determined that an area variance was required as the accessory structure was closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling. The applicant filed an appeal with this board on October 5th, 2020, and has paid the requisite fee. The appeal was filed within 60 days of the ZEO's decision and thus is timely under 125-125B of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. Acceptance of the application. The applicant provided the ZBA with a presentation on October 21st, 2020 on which date the ZBA deemed the application complete. The seeker and planning board approval. After accepting this appeal, we determined that this matter should be classified as a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, or seeker, because the project involved granting an area variance for a single-family residence, and the reference on that is 6 NYCRR subsection 617.5C17. And as a result of that, no further review was required. Referrals and responses. The application was referred to the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board on October 21st. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board responded on November 11th and found the requested variance raised no significant planning or environmental concern, and recommended that the ZBA rely upon its own study of the facts. The application was also referred to the Conservation Advisory Board, or the CAB, on the same date, October 21st. The CAB responded on November 5th, 2020, stating there are wetlands located on the central and western portion of the property. The project is located uphill about 500 feet away from these wetlands. Given that the project is located outside of the 100-foot buffer, there should be no negative impact towards the wetlands. Site visit. We went on November 7th, but it was actually November 11th, so that should be changed. On November 11th, a ZBA member, Catherine Clark and Scott Bergen, visited the applicant's property and surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand on-site conditions, property characteristics, settings, surrounding environment, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Public hearing. A public hearing on this appeal was duly advertised and held on November 18th, 2020. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the public hearing was held virtually, and pursuant to the New York State Executive Order, it suspended certain provisions of the open meetings law, allowing the municipal board to convene meetings during the pandemic via video conferencing and or telephone conferencing. The public was afforded the opportunity to view and participate during the public hearing. Prior to the public hearing, the ZBA received an email from Caitlin Davis, Associate Real Property Services Representative from Central Hudson Gas and Electric Corporation, dated November 4th, 2020. Ms. Davis indicated that Central Hudson Gas and Electric did not have any concerns with where the proposed barn would be placed with regard to their fee-owned parcel. Prior to the public hearing, the ZBA received comment from Jay Burgess of 25 Pilgrim's Progress Road. Initially, Mr. Burgess had concerns about the visibility of the barn from the road. However, by email to the zoning board clerk, Chris Hedges, dated on November 8th, 2020, Mr. Burgess withdrew his concern. He remains opposed to any commercial activity that may occur on the property, although no activity has been represented by the applicant. That may occur, that may occur on the property, although, okay, let's see. But he didn't have a concern with regard to the barn. I lost my spot, sorry about that. It should be noted that, and this is an important part, it should be noted for the record that Mr. Burgess gave particular thanks to the zoning board secretary for her assistance in allowing him to assess the application, and the ZBA extends thanks to Ms. Hedges for her help in assisting Mr. Burgess. On November 17th, 2020, the ZBA received an email from the applicant who advised she met with her neighbors, is it Francois? Okay, Francois and Jeff Anteville, who advised her that they had no issue with the location of the barn. Chris, I have a question. The way I read the email chain, I probably misread it, was that Ms. Reichelt was advising us what these neighbors said to her during their meeting. But did we
Yeah.
have a direct email from them?
No.
Okay,
I just
Is it-
forwarded the email that they sent to me.
okay. Maybe we can include that as well, because obviously it's more important and more powerful to have obviously the direct email from those individuals than you forwarding it, saying what they said to you kind of thing. So maybe we can work on making a slight adjustment to the public hearing part, paragraph 11. Anyway, during the course of the public hearing, we received no further comments from the public. The public hearing was closed on November 18, 2020. Findings of fact and conclusions of law. Balancing test. In our review of the variance sought, we have considered the benefit to the applicant if the area variance was granted as weighed against detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. We have determined that the variance requested should be granted because there is no detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by the granting of the variance. Paragraph 13, consideration of 5 factors in balancing test. In our determination, we have considered the 5 factors required by section 125-124, subsection C1 of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. And the first part of that is A, if the variance is granted, will it cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find that the answer to the question is no. The barn will not be visible from the roadway and is set back several hundred feet from Pilgrim's Progress Road. In fact, the barn is 365 feet from the property owned by Stefan, 360 feet away from the property owned by Carlton, and 185 feet from the central Hudson lands. It is set back in such a manner that it will not be visible from the roadway or from any of the surrounding properties. Moreover, the placement and design of the barn will be in keeping with the structures in the, and it should be area instead of areas, and will enhance the area. B, can the benefits sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than area variance? We find that the answer to this question is no. The placement of the barn where it is proposed is the only feasible area for placement of the barn. Because of the topography of the property, it could not be placed either behind or on either side of the principal residence. Also, the placement of the garage blends nicely with the existing driveway. Simply put, the placement of the barn where proposed is the most sensible area to place the barn. Is the requested area variance substantial? We find that the answer to this question is no. While the barn is approximately 300 feet in front of the principal dwelling, it is also set back considerably from any of the surrounding properties and the road. Because of the existing forest area between the principal dwelling and the barn as proposed is, and it should be, as close as possible to the residence, period. It's the slight change there. Given the overall size of the property, which is over 18 acres, the variance is not substantial. Also, as stated previously, the barn will not be visible from the roadway or the surrounding properties. D, will the proposed variance have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? We find that the answer to this question is no. As mentioned above, the renderings of the barn show that it will blend into the neighborhood. Also, the barn is placed in such a manner as will not be visible from the surrounding properties or roadway. By placing the barn where proposed, no plantings, trees, or other vegetation will be removed. Again, given the topography of the property, as well as the existing driveway, the placement of the barn where proposed makes the most sense. And then finally, is the alleged difficulty self-created? We find that the answer to this is yes. However, given the topography of the property, there is no other reasonable place to place the barn. Paragraph 14, minimal variance requested. In addition to our review of the 5 factors and the balancing test, we must also determine if the requested variance is the minimum variance necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant. We find that the answer to this question is yes. The applicant wishes to erect the barn in order to house horses. The proposed barn is appropriate for this purpose. It should be noted that surrounding properties also have barns for horses. The barn will be in keeping with the surrounding properties and structures and the nature of the neighborhood. The topography of the land precludes the placement closer to the principal residence. 15, result of the balancing test. Based upon our analysis of the 5 factors we discussed above and the consideration of having the minimal variance requested, we find that the balancing test favors granting of the area variance sought. Now therefore be it resolved, based upon all of the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above, as follows. Section 1, the ZBA grants the area variance from zoning law section 125-27-sub-A-sub 3, which prohibits the location of an accessory structure closer to the front lot line than the principal dwelling. The benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant. The variance is supported by the balancing of the 5 factors as discussed above. Section 2, the granting of the variance is expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application, in full compliance with Article 14 fee reimbursement of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. The variance shall not be deemed granted until such fees are paid in full by the applicant. Section 3, the granting of the variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and or approvals. And finally, Section 4, the variance shall be null and void unless construction pursuant to the plan is begun within 1 year of this resolution. The construction must be in conformity with the site plan, the renderings, the application, and all other information forwarded to the ZBA. All right. Comments, concerns,
No.
constructive criticism?
No. No.
Yeah, I would actually just, since we talked and confirmed with Ms. Reichelt that no commercial activity is planned, I would just insert a little sentence. I think you had this actually in your draft, and I just wanted to confirm it. So right on the public hearing, section 11, right before it says, it should be noted for the record that Mr. Burgess gave particular thanks to the zoning board secretary.
Yep.
Just a little sentence in there just saying that no commercial activity is planned. Just to say that, you know, that we've asked that question of the applicant.
So maybe before we get into the next sentence where the applicant talked to Francois and Jeff Anteville, maybe right there, a sentence.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
yeah, that's good.
All right, so the applicant
Has
confirm,
stated- Yeah,
Huh?
has stated that no commercial activity is proposed for the barn.
okay. Chris, do you want to make that change or do you want me to make it and I can send it to you tomorrow?
No, I can make that change as long as you want to make that one insert about that change with the email. That was-
Right.
So
You know, we
I,
also have to make the change right after that.
yeah,
With the direct email from the
Yeah.
neighbors. So you want to give that a go and send it to me and then I'll take a look at it and we can fiddle around with it?
yes.
Okay. All right, any questions, concerns, comments? Nothing?
No, sounded
Nothing. Sounds good.
cleaned up.
Okay, great. Well, then, not hearing anything, I will make a motion that we accept the resolution as read with the changes proposed. Chris, you want to poll the board?
Do you want to get a
Or I guess I
second?
need a second. Do I have a second?
Catherine- Okay, Scott Bergen,
Yes.
Catherine Clark,
Yes,
Tim Econopoli,
Yes.
Dave Tobias,
Yes.
and Tim Allenbrook.
Yes.
Got it.
Okay. All right, so on to the next application, or excuse me, the next old business, which is Mulligan. Catherine, I think you had that one?
Thank you, everyone.
I do.
Thank you, Mrs. Reich, or Ms. Reichelt.
Good night.
Good night.
Do you want me to just go through this, read through this?
Yeah, why don't you read through it and then we can have discussion after that.
Okay.
Actually, before we read, I just want to say that at the last meeting, we asked the applicant to provide what the plantings and landscape plans were. They did provide that, so I'm just going to put those on the screen just so we
Okay,
can see those.
This is in the matter of the area variance application of Aaron and Jeffrey Mulligan, ZBA case 1004. Background, the applicants are Aaron and Jeffrey Mulligan, referred to hereafter as the applicant. Jeffrey Mulligan is acting as his own representative. Property involved. This appeal involves property located at 402 Sapasco Center Street in the town of Rhinebeck, and which bears the tax parcel number 1350896371143563347. The applicant's property is 0.66 acres in area and is located in the neighborhood infill overlay in I-0 zoning district. Description of the proposed project. The applicant proposes to erect a 6-foot high fence for privacy and security that will enclose a portion of their side yards and much of their backyard. The applicant's proposed fence does not meet section 12538A, which states that fences shall not exceed 4 feet in height if erected within 50 feet of the front yard property line. The property is a corner lot and therefore fronts both Sapasco Center Street and Sapasco Beach Drive. The applicant therefore requires 2 variances. Variance 1 is a variance of 2 feet in height for fencing along the Sapasco Center Street, and variance 2 is a variance of 2 feet in height for fencing along Sapasco Beach Drive. ZBA review. Timeliness of appeal. The applicant filed an appeal with this board on August 30th, 2020, and has paid the requisite fee. The appeal was filed within 60 days of the date of the ZEO's determination, which is being appealed, dated August 26, 2020. And thus the application is timely as required by section 125(1)(b) of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law. This application was deemed complete and accepted by this board on September 16, 2020. Secret. This application was simultaneously before the town planning board for a special use permit, and we have designated the planning board as lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. On October 5th, 2020, the planning board classified this action as a type 2 action. The ZBA accepts the planning board's classification and no further environmental review is required pursuant to SECRA. Referrals and responses. The application was referred to the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board on October 5th, 2020. The Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board responded on October 8th, 2020, stating that the applicant would require plantings along the fence line. Otherwise, the ZBA should rely on its own judgment in the matter. Public hearing. A public hearing on this appeal was duly advertised and held on October 21st, 2020. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, the public hearing was held virtually pursuant to New York State Executive Order 202.1, which suspended certain provisions of the Open Meetings Law to allow a municipal board to convene meetings during the current pandemic via video conferencing and/or telephone conferencing. The public was thus afforded the opportunity to view and participate during this public hearing remotely. Prior to the public hearing, the ZBA had received a letter dated 10/21/2020 from Leanne and Matthew Henniges, neighbors of the applicant's property who live at 411 Sapasco Center Street. They expressed concern about the location and height of the fence along Sapasco Center Street, as it would be one of the first views to see as one entered the neighborhood. They withdrew their objections to the project after speaking with the applicant and clarifying the proposal. No further comments were received by the public during the public meeting. The public hearing was closed on October 21st, 2020. Site visit. On October 19th, 2020, ZBA member Catherine Clark visited the applicant's property and the surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand on-site conditions, property characteristics, setting, surrounding environment, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Other ZBA members visited the site independently at other times. Findings of fact and conclusions of law. Balancing test. In our review of the variance sought, we have considered the benefit to the applicant if the area variances are granted as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. We determined that the variances requested should be granted because there is no perceived detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by the granting of the variances. Consideration of 5 factors in balancing test. In our determination, we have considered the 5 factors required by section 125.124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law as follows. If the variances are granted, will they cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find the answer to this question is no. Although many of the homes within Sapasco Village do not have fences, there are also a number of lots that are fenced, including corner lots. This was demonstrated by the applicant, who provided photos for the record of other fences in the area. The applicant's proposal is consistent with the height of other fences in the area and leaves the front yard open, which address the concerns of at least one neighbor. The portion of the fence that is parallel to Sapasco Center Street is approximately 50 feet back from the property line and approximately 68 feet from the road itself, providing significant open space in front of the house. A plan for plantings was also provided in response to the planning board's comments. Can the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than these area variances? We find the answer to this question is yes. The applicant has stated 2 goals for the fence: to provide security and privacy for their backyard, which could be met by a lower or more open styled fence, though not to the same degree. Is the requested area variance substantial? We find the answer to this question is yes, in terms of percentage of the variances requested, as the request is for an increase of 50% above the 4 feet allowed within the code. In terms of the impact on the neighborhood, it is not substantial, given the presence of other fences in the area and the fact that they will not be fencing their entire property, but only the backyard. Will the proposed variances have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? We find the answer to this question is no. As mentioned above, there are similar fences in the neighborhood. In addition, the fence is limited to the side and back of the house, and the plantings around it will offset any negative impact. Is the alleged difficulty self-created? We find the answer to this question is yes, as the applicant could install a 4-foot fence that would not require a variance. Minimal variance requested. In addition to our review of the 5 factors and balancing test, we must also determine if this requested variance is the minimum variance necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant. We find the answer to this question is no. A fence that conforms to the ordinance is certainly possible. However, in order to meet the goals of both privacy and security, a 6-foot fence around the backyard is both reasonable and consistent with other fences in the neighborhood. Now, therefore, be it resolved, based on all the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above, as follows. The ZBA hereby grants the variances requested by the applicant, finding that the benefit to the applicant outweighs the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant. As discussed above, the front of the property will be left open, and the fence proposed is in keeping with other privacy fencing in the neighborhood. The planting along the fence will break up the expanse of the white fence and enhance the views on that side of the property. Section 2. The granting of these variances are expressly contingent upon the following: that the installation conforms to the proposal, including the planting of grasses, dogwoods, forsythia, and lilacs. Section 3, the granting of these variances shall also be expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the Town of Rhinebeck of any and all fees and escrow deposits due in connection with this application, in full compliance with Article 14 fee reimbursement of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. These variances shall not be deemed valid until all such fees are paid in full by the applicant. The granting of these variances does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and/or approvals. The proposed fence must be constructed in conformity with the application and plan submitted. The area variances shall be null and void unless the proposed construction is commenced within 1 year of this resolution. Scott, do you want to have any discussion before I make a motion, or should I go ahead and make a motion?
No, I think we should probably have this discussion first before you make the motion. Kim,
Yes, I guess there might be some changes or alterations.
Yeah, there are at least a couple of changes in my mind. First of all, and I should have told you about this, I actually went out there. I do not know the date that I went out there, but I did myself, I drove through the neighborhood. I've been out there before, but I hadn't been for a while. So I made sure I went out there, and I just wanted to see where the stakes were. There were stakes out for the general area where the fence was going to be. And I also wanted to get the lay of the land and see what the the other houses looked like in that community, and other fences and that kind of stuff. If there can just a general thing saying that, Scott Bergen also went out and did a site visit or something. Again,
okay.
I don't know the date.
Right.
And then I think the other thing is I was kind of shuffling through a couple of papers, as part of this. There was mention made in the resolution about the letter from the CAB.
No.
I think that's pretty important. Kim, I don't know how you feel about it, but.
Well, the CAB comment was really to the planning board.
Okay,
So just for the board and for the record, this is currently before the planning board for a special use permit. It was
Okay.
for a public hearing on Monday night. And the planning board and the CAB had expressed some concern about the massing of the, just the solid nature of the fence. They had tried to suggest perhaps a different, more open-aired concept. But the public hearing has remained opened at the planning board. They wanted to understand where the ZBA was going, and they understood that our resolution was going to be proposed tonight. So in case if it's approved and there's any conditions, the planning board wanted to know that before they continued with their review. And if it were to be denied, the planning board wanted to know that so they knew how to go forward with their review.
Okay. All right, so the letter, because I didn't remember the referral to the CAB, a referral to the CAB.
Yeah, there was no referral to CAB from ZBA.
Okay,
That
all right, so-
was to the planning board.
All right, so,
Okay.
because this letter that was received, and, it's part of the planning board's record, not ours, so I guess it probably should not be part of the resolution.
Okay.
But I, it was received and, sent to us, was one of the more, it's a nice word, of strident opinions I have seen in some time from the CAB. And I'm not sure I agree with it, but I understand their concerns. And they in the strongest terms, which apparently they expressed, I guess, to the planning board, were against the granting of the variance and the erection of this fence. But again, since it wasn't directed to us, and it's not really technically part of our record, I guess we wouldn't put it in the resolution, any reference to it.
Yeah, you don't have to have it in the resolution, but you can discuss it, and I think some of their comments probably do go towards impacts to the neighborhood. That was what they were mentioning, was that it just seemed that was out of character. But anyway, you can certainly discuss it, and it's part of the planning board's record.
Now,
So
that gets to,
I think I missed seeing that letter from the CAB. I mean, I'm sure it's in my email somewhere, but so do you think that you just summarized it enough, Kim and Scott, that we kind of know what their concerns were? I mean, again, it's not, didn't come to us directly, but
Right, and we didn't make a referral to them, so they weren't reporting back to us, so, but it's just, I can read if you want, what their general findings were. They were against the fence is the bottom line, in very strong terms. But that kind of segues into what I saw when I went out there. The applicant provided us with photographs of fences that are out there. And while I know the applicant says that these are precedents, I'm not saying they are precedents, because I don't have any recollection, and I could be wrong, that we ever gave an area variance for fences of this size in this area. However, they do exist there, because I saw them when I drove around. I mean, there are certainly fences that are, the height that is being requested, that are solid. I mean, some of them are wood, it looks like. Several of them are, they've seen better days, let's put it that way. But, so there's at least 6 fences in that neighborhood that are the size of what is being requested, and are they're not picket fences. They're solid. And then there was one, and I remember seeing this one, and I think it's right near the applicant's property. It almost looks like kind of like a homemade kind of fence, that's out there. And so there's multiple fences.
Scott,
And
Scott, it's Tim Allen
Tim.
here. Is there any knowledge as to whether those fences, other fences you saw, have been approved or submitted for?
I have no knowledge of that. I suspect, and I don't know this, that they probably predate 2009, which was the last, major code change.
And
And
if I
they're
may
probably
interject a
pre-existing.
I'm not sure if they're pre-existing. They very well could be. I believe the last zoning change was in 2009, but the variance for the 4-foot requirement is only for front yard. So if the
Right.
fences are on the side or the back, there is no, as far as I know, it might be a 6-foot limit. It's not a 4-foot limit. The 4-foot is really just for the front yard. This particular property, it's a corner lot, so it has 2 front yards, which is why it
Right.
has 2 of the variances.
Right. And so, yeah, so the way the law is interpreted, makes them have to get these variances. So anyway, I guess, my thing is, I'm a little torn, but, given what exists in the neighborhood, given, what the renderings that we've received, my main thing is, as long as there's plenty of plantings to help soften the effect of these fences, I will vote to approve. But, there are some strong feelings at the planning board level, apparently, and at the CAB. So,
And it
Did
is
you,
still before review before the planning board. So
yeah,
you know,
and
we have
the
to issue
planning
that.
board will get to review it again and do whatever they want. And I just think it's important that we have very strong terms that, we expect a lot of plantings and, substantial plantings to help soften any adverse effect of this fence.
did you think the planting scheme that was presented, particularly I think along the long area of the fence, the Sapasco Beach, it really wasn't much structural plantings. It was primarily grasses and forsythia on one corner. But I think along that long expansive fence, it was really grasses, wasn't it, Kim?
I think you're
Yes,
right.
yeah, I'm actually
Yeah.
just putting it up right now. This is what was presented. So I think
Okay.
that there was some forsythias, some beach grass, and then I think two, from what I recall from the email, two
Oh.
dogwoods.
2 dogwoods, yeah. So the,
Is it showing up okay on the screen? for you?
Yep.
Yeah.
I guess the only other thing I would say in viewing the other structures in the neighborhood, I mean, I think the applicant's done a nice job with their house. The house is one of the, nicest structures out there, in my opinion, and I the fence, I think it's a matter of personal taste to some people like the CAB. But again, it's not the only fence out there by far. That is that size. And that structure and that design.
yeah, that kind of structure.
And I think one thing you said, Catherine, that was persuasive to me is that, the fence is not right up against the road. So there is, that grassy area where there will be plantings along the side. And also you got obviously the front yard.
Yeah, I mean, I had one question after, because we'd asked Jeff, Mr. Mulligan to provide the distances from the front road. I think I had asked for that.
Yes.
And he said approximately 50 feet. I mean, if we knew that the fence was actually, in terms of minimum variance, if we knew it was a little over 50 feet from his front property line, he actually wouldn't need that variance, I don't think. Kim, do you have an opinion about that, or is it better to just leave it the way it is?
Yeah, I believe that is correct. I don't have it right in front of me, but that sounds accurate. But again, I don't have it right in front of me. I don't know if it's just front yard generally or if it's 50 feet, but I believe 50 feet was somehow incorporated in there. I
Yeah, I think it was 50 feet from the front yard. I mean, because of the front yard.
I mean, I didn't get out and measure, but at least from where the,
It says,
where it was
Michelle,
marked, and-
yeah, Michelle said in her letter that within 50 feet. I mean, if it doesn't really make any difference, I suppose it's safer to just leave it as 2 variances in case it's 49.75 feet from the front,
Yeah, I would recommend, I think it is a close call, so I would certainly recommend if you're going to be granting the variance to leave it as 2 variances.
Okay, all right. Is there any other discussion on this? I mean, some of the other options that I know that you had
Is
brought
there
up.
any way,
Oh,
is there any way, sorry, this is Tim Allenbrook. Is there any
Yeah.
way to, hang on, I lost my train of thought, but is there any way to have I don't think this should be decided by two parties. I'm thinking that this is really a decision for the planning board. Landscaping being something that they get involved in very often. And, well, anyway,
Oh, you mean in terms of any additional requirements for landscaping or anything, let them address that?
well, I mean, isn't the planning board the one that usually responds to?
Yeah,
If I may say, I think that it will be an important condition to include a landscape plan and the plantings plan. The planning board typically does do it. In their referral response to us, they had asked if we make that a condition. So I do think that is important to maintain in the condition. And my recommendation, in addition to what you have, Catherine, is to just say that the landscaping and the plantings shall be maintained and kept in good condition.
Yes.
Yeah,
And so that would be in my, in section 2, right?
Yes.
It doesn't seem like other people brought up the height of the fence as an issue. I know, Scott, that you had at one point asked a question about a 5-foot fence.
Right, and you know, I have some experience in these matters because I just put up a 5-foot fence myself. So I know they come in, you know, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 feet, you know, and so you know, I don't think I think you're right, like a 4-foot fence would not give what the applicant is seeking, and, you know, and that is privacy on this corner lot. So I don't think a 4-foot fence is appropriate. 5 foot, I don't know, you know,
5 foot is eye level
yeah.
for an adult.
And actually, the interesting thing, though, I will tell you, is they call it 5 foot, but it is not 5 foot. When you put it in, it's about 5'3".
Right.
So it's not much higher than that, but I think on balance, you know, especially given what I saw out there and what was provided to us by the applicant of these other fences of similar height, similar composition as far as being, you know, you know, you can't see, obviously you can't see through them. They're solid.
Yeah.
Some were wood. I think 1 or 2 may have been the plastic kind of thing. You know, I guess you know, on balance, I favor the granting of the application.
Any
That's
other
just my opinion.
any other comments from anybody?
I'm, in terms of the application, I'm on the fence, so to speak.
I knew someone was going to say that.
I had given you my comments, Catherine, in revision to the resolution, which suggested basically that I thought we were all, if we answered the questions honestly, much more, as Tim said, on the fence right in the middle, but I do fall on the side of granting it.
Yeah, I'd have to say the
Just so
same.
just for the board's, you know, reminder, as you discussed today, you know, there is, in addition to the balancing test, there is the, you know, whether the variance requested is the minimum requested. I know that kind of goes back to Scott's point about the 5-foot fence. But just to say that if that would provide more comfort to the board, that is an option. It still grants a bit of a foot of a variance, not as much. Again, it's for the board's discussion, but that is part of the balancing test, is if the variance requested is the minimum required to achieve what the applicant desires.
I think it's important to recognize that 5 feet is eye level, and that somebody sitting down in behind that fence is going to be looking at the eagles.
So it's not as private. 5 feet is not going to be as
No,
private.
it's not as private.
Yeah.
And I agree with Tim on that. And again, if there were no other fences in the area like this, I might have a different opinion, but there are multiple ones, at least 6 and maybe 7 if you count the another one.
Yeah,
and they're just around the area.
yeah, I drove around quite a bit that day that I went out as well. So
Any other comments or
yeah,
No.
concerns, or, I mean, again, I think part of our fears will be allayed by what the planning board does. I'm sure they're going to put some restrictions.
And I do think that the plantings, you know, as requested by the planning board and in the ZBA's conditions, will be important to help alleviate some of those concerns. My one suggestion that the landscaping and plantings will be maintained and kept in good condition, but I do think that that will go a long way to helping this application move forward.
Yeah. And one last thing.
I could also look at that sentence a little bit more, Kim, and reinforce it a bit by saying whatever plantings are required by the planning board. They may be more than this plan that we have.
I think, how about if we defer to the planning board? The selection, the development or approval of, I mean, they throw stuff at us all the time.
We could say that from our viewpoint in granting the variance, that the plantings are a required component of it. But we could defer to the planning board in terms of the
The exact
Define-
nature.
Yeah, the exact nature of them.
Yeah,
Well,
that
I do
would
think-
make me a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that it's the way it's worded says that it's contingent that the installations conforms to the proposal, including plantings of grasses, dogwoods, forsythias, and lilacs. So I mean, it's not super exact, but enough. I do think that there should be some kind of reference to some design. Maybe include another sentence saying if the planning board prefers, another
Oh,
landscaping plan or as further discussed by the planning board, we could include maybe a sentence like that saying if the planning board desires changes to the landscaping plans during their review,
that would take precedent.
that would
over
take
our-
precedent over it. Yeah, I think that would be a good way to have something there, but then also provide the planning board a little bit more leeway in case they have further landscaping designs that they would like to implement.
Right. Why don't you say that this is as at a minimum, subject to further review and further development by the planning board.
Yeah, that could work too, subject to
Yeah.
their review
Okay.
and agreement.
It-
Chris,
if I-
given that we've had this discussion, I'll try and work on that paragraph tomorrow and send something in the morning,
Okay, great.
rather than put it on you to try.
And just
Thank
one last thing, and you noted it in the public hearing. I mean, if the neighbors were against this, they would have come out and we would have heard from them. And I know there was, one person who had an objection that they withdrew, but there are a lot of houses out there. There are a lot of people out there. And if the neighbors, objected, they would come out. And nobody came out and objected to this except for the one individual who, withdrew their objection. So to me, it's important what the people in the community think out there. And apparently they're fine with it.
Yes, I agree, Scott. Thank you.
So,
Okay. So I make a motion to approve the resolution with these additional slight modifications and the discussion, and that the resolution reflect the discussion on the plantings and the relationship to the planning board.
and I'll second that since I've been yapping a lot on this.
All right, I'll poll.
Yes,
Scott Bergen,
yes,
Catherine Clark,
Yes.
Tim Econopoli,
Yes.
Dave Tobias,
Yes.
and then Tim Ellenbook.
Can I abstain?
Of course.
of course.
Chris, I'll work on that paragraph and send you a revised update in the morning.
Great, thank you, Catherine.
Okay, and I think the next one now is Welker. And I get to do that one, so you get to listen to me again. This is reasonably short. And Kim, again, thanks for eyeballing this afternoon. All right. The resolution, this is the resolution of the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals in the matter of the area variance application of Suzanne Welker. It's a ZBA case number 1002. The background, the applicant is Susan Welker, hereinafter the applicant. The applicant was assisted by Matthew Carlisle, her builder. The applicant is requesting one variance in order to erect an accessory structure which will serve as a pool shed to store pool equipment and outdoor furniture. The applicant requires a side setback variance. The subject application and the request for variance results from the determination letter of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning enforcement officer dated June 18th. The letter confirmed that the structure is in a RA10 district requiring a side setback of 75 feet. This proposed structure has a setback of 14 feet, necessitating a 61-foot variance. The property involved. The appeal involves property located at 82 Lemon Lane, Rhinebeck, New York, which bears the tax parcel number 617100488879. The applicant's property is approximately 1.8 acres, located again in the RA10 zoning district. Again, the applicant represented herself, but she did have assistance with Mr. Carlisle. Description of the project: the applicant seeks to construct a 12 by 16 accessory structure for storage of pool equipment and outdoor furniture. It will be erected on top of an existing 12 by 16 pool mechanics foundation. The lot is located on Lemon Lane, which is a dead-end street, and the proposed structure will be located on the side of the property which is closest to Route 199, which abuts it. The number of area variances required, just one. By letter dated June 18th, the ZEO determined that the applicant required a side yard setback variance of 61 feet for the purpose of erecting the structure. The proposed structure has a setback of 14 feet, and since 75 is required, 61 is the variance. And the variance is from 125-27 A2B. Timeliness of the appeal: on June 18th, 2020, the ZEO determined that a 61-foot variance was required. The applicant filed an appeal with the board on August 5th. She paid the requisite fee. That's within 60 days and meets the requirements of 125-125B of the zoning law. Acceptance of the application: the applicant provided the ZBA with a presentation on September 16th. We accepted the application we accepted the application as complete, subject to the applicant providing renderings and additional information regarding the structure and the topography of the area. The additional information was provided prior to the public hearing on October 21st. Seeker and Planning Board approval: on September 16th, 2020, the ZBA determined that the application was a type 2 action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act. The Zoning Board of Appeals determined that the application was a type 2 action pursuant to section 617.5 subsection 16, granting of an individual setback and lot line variance and adjustment. Accordingly, no further review was required. Referrals and responses: the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board, we've referred it to them as required by 125-125E. The application was referred on September 16th. The Planning Board on October 19th determined that the requested variance raised no significant planning or environmental concern, and it found that the requested variance, I'm gonna have to fiddle around with that a little bit. We'll fool around. It's a little redundant. It found that the requested variance raises no significant planning or environmental concerns, as the shed is to be located over an existing pool equipment. I may fiddle around with that and just get rid of the redundancy there.
Scott, if it is kind of, you can probably just drop that sentence out.
Yeah, you know what? Let's see.
That might just, because then it would read: the planning board determined that the requested variance raised no significant planning or environmental concerns.
Period. And then just get rid of the rest.
Yep.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Do it right now. Okay, let's see. There's also a referral to the Waterfront Advisory Committee on that was done on September 16th. And let's see. Was it the WAC or the Conservation Advisory Board?
It was technically, so CAB and WAC are essentially the same, but
Right.
it was technically referred to WAC because it's in the LWRP.
Okay.
So we'll just change that second reference to the Waterfront Advisory Committee.
Yeah, WAC. All right. Pursuant to a letter received from them, the WAC found that the project appeared to be favorably, and that should be cited. That's with an S. And there were no environmental concerns noted. Again, I apologize to my colleagues. This was done, unfortunately, rather hurriedly this afternoon. Anyway, site visit on November 7th, and that should be actually November 11th.
11th.
ZBA members Catherine Clark and Scott Bergen visited the subject property and surrounding neighborhood to observe firsthand site conditions, property characteristics, settings, surrounding environment, and the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Anybody else go out there? Okay. The purpose of the site visit was to observe the property and the surrounding area, to inform the board members to support the decision made herein. The site visit was conducted solely to gather information, and no business or deliberations were conducted. A public hearing on this appeal was duly advised and held on October 21st, 2020. And again, because of the COVID pandemic, the public hearing was held virtually, but it comported with all of the things that we have to do in order to do that appropriately. The public was afforded the opportunity to review and participate during the public hearing. Prior to the public hearing, the ZBA received no comment. However, during the course of the public hearing, a Mr. Chad, and I think it's Kleisch, K-L-E-I-T-S-C-H, from 74 Lemon Lane, asked about the location of the shed. The applicant explained the location, and Mr. Kleisch indicated he did not have any concerns. The public hearing was then closed on October 21st. And the findings of fact and conclusions of law. Balancing test. In our review of the variance sought, we have considered the benefit to the applicant if the area variance was granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such grant. We have determined that the variance requested should be granted because there is no detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by the granting of the variance. Consideration of the 5 factors. In our determination, we have considered the 5 factors required by 125-124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. A, if the variance is granted, will it cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment to nearby properties? We find that the answer to that question is no. The pool shed will be constructed on an existing foundation next to the pool. It will be unable to be seen by any neighbors. In addition, the placement and design of the shed will be in keeping with the surrounding structures in the area and will enhance the area. B, can the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method feasible to the applicant to pursue other than the area variance? We find that the answer to this question is no. The reason the shed is being constructed on the existing foundation is in order to provide storage for pool equipment, cushions, and patio furniture. Apparently, these items had been stored in the foundation previously and had been subject to water damage. The construction of the pool shed on the existing foundation will allow for these items to be effectively stored from the elements. The placement of the pool shed is the most sensible as it will be on top of the existing foundation. Is the requested area variance substantial? We find that the answer to the question is no. While the shed is 14 feet from the side lot, there are no structures in the surrounding area. In fact, there is a fence which shields the shed from the unimproved property, which abuts Route 199. Just for folks who haven't been out there, this is right at the end of Lemon Lane. And after her property, there's a grassy median, and then you got 199. So there's no other houses there. There's no nothing. But in between her property and 199, she has a big fence up, a solid fence, just like the ones we just talked about. So anyway, also the neighboring structures are a distance away, and no neighbor will be able to see the pool shed. In addition, based upon the topography of the area, the shed will be unable to be seen by the neighbors. Basically, when you go out to the site, it's in the back of her property, and it is, I don't want to say sunken, but it's definitely a depressed area. You have to go down a bunch of stairs. to get to the pool area, to get to the shed. So none of the, nobody can see it. It's in the back of the property and below it. Will the proposed variance have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? We find the answer is no. As mentioned above, the renderings of the pool shed show that it will blend into the neighborhood. The shed is placed in such a manner that it will not be visible to other properties. It will be placed on an existing foundation adjacent to the pool. The topography, the applicant's house, and a fence will prevent the shed from being seen by any neighbors or anyone. And just as an aside, the pool and the surrounding stonework were exquisite. I think both Catherine and I were extraordinarily expressed with the quality of the work that the applicant has done around the pool and everything else. So it's our expectation that you will do a good job with this this pool shed as well. Is the alleged difficulty self-created? We find the answer to the question is yes. However, given the topography of the property, the most reasonable place to erect the shed is on the existing foundation. Minimal variance requested. In addition to our review of the 5 factors and the balancing test, we must also determine if the requested variance is the minimum necessary and adequate to accomplish what is requested by the applicant. We find that the answer to this question is yes. The applicant wishes to erect the pool shed in order to protect pool cushions and patio furniture from the elements. The shed should accomplish this objective and is to be built upon an existing foundation next to the pool and away from any neighboring structures. Result of the balancing test based upon our analysis of the 5 factors we have discussed above and the consideration of having the minimal variance requested, we find that the balancing test favors granting of the area variance sought. Now therefore be it resolved based upon all the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above as follows. Section 1. The ZBA grants the variance from zoning law section 125-27 subsection A to B for 61-foot side yard variance from the requisite 75 feet for an accessory structure. The benefit to the applicant outweighs any detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood or community by such a grant, and it's supported by the 5 factors as discussed. Section 2, the granting of the variance is expressly contingent upon the applicant's full payment to the town of Rhinebeck for any fees under Article 4 of the town of Rhinebeck zoning law fee reimbursement. And the variance shall not be granted until the fees are fully paid. Section 3, the granting of the variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits or approvals. And section 4, the variance shall be null and void unless the construction pursuant to the plan is begun within 1 year of the resolution. The construction must be in conformity with the site plan, the renderings, the application, and other information forwarded to the ZBA. Any questions, concerns, comments?
No.
Another thorough job.
I just, I think at the end of section 1, there's just like a little extra sentence in there.
Yeah.
After it says the variance is supported by the balance.
Yes, you're right.
There was just a little leftover from another one. So I would just take that little part out. Otherwise, everything was fine.
Okay, sounds good. Chris, do you see where that is?
Yes, already done.
Okay, already done, of course. Okay.
Cole?
Well, first, let me make a
Second.
motion. Yeah, let me make a motion that we approve the resolution as read, along with the corrections that we've discussed. Do I have a second?
Second,
Okay, that's Catherine Clark. Chris, could you poll the board, please?
That's Tim Allenbrook,
Yes.
Tim McAnapoli,
Yes.
Catherine Clark,
yes.
Scott Bergen,
Yes.
Dave Tobias.
Yes.
All right. Okay, and I think we have come to our last item of the night, and that is the interpretation of Rhinebeck Villa. All right, and really what we're doing here, did everybody get a chance to, review the matter?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an interesting issue.
Yeah.
How do you define a guest room? And there's not tons of guidance. There's some guidance that we've been provided. We've had our counsel, and by the way, I want to thank our counsel for doing research for us on the issue. There are, I understand the arguments on both sides, and both have merit, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion, and that's what we're here for. Is really just kind of have a discussion about what you think, and what are we going to tell our attorneys to do as far as putting together a resolution on this interpretation. So, anybody want to start?
Yeah, my feeling is that the plans that we saw they were more like suites where there were multiple bedrooms. And then reading the information, kind of looking at it, I don't know, it was like if you go to a hotel or something, sometimes you have a double, or a queen size bed. Is that considered two rooms at that point, or is it still one room but with a double bed?
Well, I think it's one room. It just happens to have a double bed in it.
Scott, would you like me to put up the plans?
Sure.
So we can see?
Yeah.
So we had asked Mr. Kemp if he could provide updated ones, which he has. And I'm going to put those up, and then I am going to put up the ones, because the ones that we had for, initially were what Michelle, as the CEO, had looked off of too. They're very similar, but I just want to I'll put both up. Let me just find them. Okay, so I'm going to show the ones that we just received. Oops, one second. And I believe that Mr. Kemp had mentioned that, this is still very conceptual. Nothing's been submitted formally to the planning board. They're still in sketch plan and preliminary review.
Yeah, the one thing is I don't see furniture in there really. So
Yes, I asked I asked Chris if she could reach out to the applicant, and he was going to check. But this is what we received. If you do look, and I'll just show you what Michelle had looked at when she had made her determination. It looks like the setup is similar, with the exception that furniture is listed and rooms are listed. So I'm just going to put that one up for you right now.
thank you.
I believe the question that Michelle was answering was, hold on, sorry, grandfather clock. Okay, sorry about that. I think that the question was that in the plans that Michelle had reviewed, there were spaces noticed, with a sleeper sofa and other places where they could sleep. And I think that is what had prompted the question: if there's other places to sleep, does that make it multiple rooms, or is it one room? The applicant's position is that the commonly understood hotel industry is that it's a keyed unit is what constitutes a guest room. The ZEO's interpretation is that she looked up guest room in the dictionary because it's not currently defined in the Rhinebeck zoning law, and she found it to be more similar to a singular bedroom unit. If there's multiple places that could be in different rooms that you could sleep, it would be considered two guest rooms.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with the more conservative definition. You can imagine that, you know, the hospitality industry, of course, wants there to be a more liberal interpretation of that, in which, you know, a 5-bedroom suite is considered one guest room. But I think for purposes of local municipal law, we should, and it's reasonable to cleave to the conservative definition of basically a bedroom being a guest room. That's my own feeling.
And that's kind of my feeling too. And the other thing is it doesn't change, I don't think, the fact that if you want to, you know, sleep more people in there, you know, we've all been through it with kids and things like that, especially young ones. You bring in, you have the one room.
Yep.
And you bring in, you know, the cot and that kind of stuff. But you know, having the multiple rooms is I guess that's not been my experience.
And I just think it begs misuse. I mean, again, you could have a hotel coming in with 5-bedroom suites, each one being called one guest room, and then you've got, you know, massively more guests and traffic and imposition on roads and community than I think was intended by the law. That's, you know, and that's our job, to interpret what was probably intended or what would be intended had they faced this question. So I guess that's where I would lean.
I agree, Dave, wholeheartedly with you. And I also agree with the comment that Tim made, Tim Allenbrook I think it was at the last meeting, that,
Yeah, made it into the memo.
that these look more like apartments than even a guest suite in a hotel. And removing the furniture, you know, maybe begs the question a little bit, but they still look more like small apartments. And when I looked through the Rhinebeck code and some of the discussion, it's like guest room to me, one, it's singular. And I think in terms of everything else that I've looked at and the discussions around the Rhinebeck code, that it was intended to be a room. And
Yeah.
yes, it might have a sink and a little refrigerator in it, but it was a room.
Right, and just to build on that, Catherine, I think, you know, much like some other zoning and ordinance issues that use restrooms or bathrooms as limiting factors, that's not what was done here. It, you know, it didn't say a 1-bathroom unit, it said a guest room.
Yeah.
All right. I think we kind of have a uniformity that, you know, we feel that the ZEO's interpretation is the correct one. Is that
I agree.
what I'm gathering from the rest of the group here?
Yeah, I
Yep.
agree with that too.
Yes.
Okay,
Right.
thank you for your discussions. That's very helpful for us and very clear. We, Grant Alliance, will draft up a resolution which just incorporates your discussions tonight. And we will circulate that around to the board prior to the meeting. So public hearing was closed at the last meeting, and we have 60 days to issue the resolution. That will be 1 day short, but at the last meeting, we had asked Mr. Kemp if he would confirm that we can have that one extra day so that we can have a regularly scheduled meeting. And he did state that we could. So we will have that ready for you at the next meeting, which, what was that, December
16th.
All right.
Yes.
So we will move forward on that. We will pass it around to the board prior so you can have time to review it and provide any comments to it.
Okay, as far as I can tell, that was the last item of business. Is there anything else? Kim, as far as you know? Chris?
I think that's it.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. All right, everybody, have a good Turkey Day.
Yeah.
And
All
Yeah.
right.
Be safe.
we'll see you in December. Yeah, be safe.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, Scott, do you want to adjourn?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, motion to adjourn.
second.
All right, and
Agreed.
agreed. Everybody agrees.
Agreed.
Hey.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.